It was late afternoon on a quiet highway in Texas when the sun began to sink slowly behind wide open fields, painting the sky in shades of gold and soft orange. The road was calm, almost empty, as if time itself moved slower out there. Suddenly, a luxury car started losing power, coughed twice, and finally stopped completely in the middle of nowhere. Behind the wheel was Olivia Turner, a successful businesswoman from New York, always elegant, always rushing, always in control. Her life was built on schedules, power, and decisions made without hesitation. But not even all her influence could help her at that moment. Her car refused to move, and for the first time in a long while, Olivia was forced to stop. In front of her, there was only a small roadside mechanic shop, old and worn, with faded paint and a crooked sign that read Johnson's Auto Repair. It was the kind of place Olivia would normally pass without even noticing, but fate had different plans. She stepped out of the car with elegance, though visibly uncomfortable. The contrast was impossible to ignore. On one side, a woman used to luxury and speed. On the other, a humble shop, surviving day by day through work and resilience. From inside the shop appeared Michael Johnson, a man in his early 40s with hands marked by labor and eyes that carried both tiredness and kindness. Michael didn't seem impressed by the expensive car or by the presence of a powerful woman. He simply nodded respectfully and listened as Olivia explained her situation in her usual firm tone, demanding quick results. But Michael, without losing his calm, said he would do everything he could, as long as he could finish before nightfall. He had dinner waiting at home with his little son Ethan, a boy who was his entire world. Those words surprised Olivia. People normally adjusted their lives around her, not the other way around. But Michael did not negotiate his role as a father. While he worked, Olivia began observing the place. The tools were old but carefully organized. The shop was simple but clean. In a corner sat a small backpack and a child's jacket, clear signs of a life where responsibility and love went hand in hand. Olivia felt something unusual, something she hadn't felt in years. Not pity, something closer to admiration, and perhaps a quiet reminder of what she herself had sacrificed along the way. Michael worked patiently, with attention and respect for every detail. He did not rush, did not exaggerate confidence, did not try to impress. He simply did what he knew best, and he did it well. Before long, Olivia's car roared back to life, running smoother than before. She was honestly shocked. Something that fancy dealerships had struggled with, this humble mechanic had resolved calmly and efficiently. As usual, Olivia tried to pay much more than necessary. Money had always been her way of controlling situations, but Michael kindly refused anything beyond what was fair. He didn't want favors, didn't want privilege. He just wanted enough to care for his son and keep going with dignity. That quiet strength touched Olivia in a way she couldn't explain. No one refused her. No one ever made her feel smaller in front of something bigger than power. Character. She left that place different from how she arrived. She drove slowly, thoughtful, carrying questions she had avoided for years. Behind her, Michael closed the shop, picked up his son's backpack, and headed home. To him, it was just another day of work and responsibility. He had no idea that what seemed like a simple roadside repair had opened a door to something far greater than either of them could imagine, something that would soon challenge their beliefs, their fears, and their understanding of what truly matters in life. The following days passed, but Texas refused to leave Olivia's thoughts. Back in New York, surrounded by glass offices, luxurious surroundings, and endless corporate conversations, she found herself drifting back to that quiet roadside, to the smell of engine oil, to the calm strength in Michael's eyes, and to the silent presence of a little boy whose life meant everything to his father. For the first time in years, success didn't feel as full as it once had. A strange emptiness echoed inside her, louder than boardroom declarations and financial victories. During an important meeting, executives argued about numbers, strategies, and expansion. Olivia stared at the skyline, but her mind was miles away. She saw that small workshop again, that simple place where life seemed hard but honest, and where love still had a voice. When the meeting ended, she made a decision she didn't fully understand but deeply felt. She got back in her car and returned to Texas, not because she needed help, but because something inside her needed answers. Michael was unlocking the shop when he heard a familiar engine approaching. He turned, expecting trouble with the car, but Olivia stepped out smiling softly. The vehicle was perfect. She wasn't there for repairs. She was there for something deeper. She walked around the shop slowly, observing every corner, every detail she had missed the first time. Then she asked about the work, about his life, about Ethan. Michael spoke honestly. Business was unstable, bills were constant, but his son never lacked love, presence, or commitment. Whenever he said Ethan's name, his voice changed. It was as if his entire world rested in that little boy's smile. Olivia listened quietly. For the first time in a long while, she was not speaking to negotiate or command. She was listening and recognizing herself in a very different mirror. She had everything most people dream of, yet she had lost so much along the way. Memories of missed dinners, forgotten birthdays, and moments she could never recover pressed against her chest. Michael, with half of what she had, seemed richer in ways she could barely face. Then Olivia revealed why she had truly returned. She explained that she didn't want to give him charity. She wanted to invest in him. She wanted to help expand the shop, modernize equipment, bring customers, and turn that forgotten roadside garage into something stronger, respected, and stable. Not because she felt sorry for him, but because she saw value, real value, in his character, in his dedication, in the way he carried both strength and kindness. Michael froze. The offer was huge. Opportunities like that didn't come twice in life, but so did risk. Big promises had disappointed him before. Life had taught him to be careful. Fear crept in quietly. Fear of depending on someone, fear of failing, fear of risking his son's future on a dream that might collapse. Olivia noticed his hesitation and didn't push. Instead, she spoke softly. She didn't want to own him. She wanted to walk beside him. If he accepted, it would be as equals. She left him with a business card, a possibility, and a storm of thoughts. Days passed. The card stayed on his kitchen table beside unpaid bills, worn papers, and quiet dreams forgotten for too long. Every night when Ethan slept, Michael stared at it. He thought about the past. He thought about the future. He thought about responsibility, about fear, about hope. And then he realized something powerful. Sometimes the greatest danger wasn't risking too much. It was never allowing yourself to hope again. Late one evening, in the quiet of his small home, Michael made his decision. Not out of ambition, out of love. He called Olivia. His voice shook slightly, but his words were steady. He would do it, but only under one condition. His son would always come first. No deal, no project, no dream could ever change that. Olivia smiled on the other end of the line. That was exactly why she had chosen him. From that moment forward, everything began to change. New equipment arrived, new opportunities appeared, life filled the once silent shop. But along with light, shadows always appear. Attention grew, pressure slowly crept in, and while hope took its first real breath, so did the challenges that come with building something truly meaningful. Time passed, and Michael's humble repair shop became something entirely different from what it once was. What used to be a quiet, almost forgotten place by the side of the highway now buzzed with life. More cars arrived, more people trusted his work, and the respect he earned was no longer silent. Ethan smiled more. Olivia visited often, sometimes to discuss plans, sometimes simply to stand quietly and watch this new chapter unfold. Their bond deepened, built not on business, but on admiration, gratitude, and an unspoken connection neither of them dared to define. For a while, it seemed like life had finally decided to be kind. But growth always brings weight, and weight always demands strength. Slowly, without warning, pressure began to creep into Michael's world. First came the whispers, people in town questioning how a small shop suddenly became so successful. Some said he was lucky, others said he didn't deserve it. A few went further, suggesting there had to be something questionable behind it all. Words spread like invisible knives. Michael pretended he didn't care, but deep inside, every whisper cut more deeply than he wanted to admit. His entire life was built on honesty, and now that honesty was being questioned. The workload increased, expectations grew. Clients now arrived not just for repairs, but demanding perfection. Every decision mattered more. Every mistake, even the possibility of one, felt like a threat to everything he loved. Michael worked longer hours, pushed himself harder, and somewhere along the way, something began to change inside him. Confidence turned into tension, responsibility turned into fear. Fear of failure, fear of disappointing Olivia, fear of letting Ethan down, fear of losing a dream he had never dared to imagine for himself. Olivia felt the shift too. She had invested more than money into that place. She had invested heart. She saw the tension in Michael's eyes, the fatigue in his shoulders, the silence growing inside him. At the same time, she began to feel pressure from outside as well. Other businessmen questioned her choices. Some mocked her emotional involvement. Others tried to buy her out, or worse, sabotage quietly. She defended Michael every time, but even strength can grow tired. Then came the moment that shook everything. A high-value car entrusted to Michael's care experienced a serious failure shortly after leaving the shop. The owner was furious. Accusations came fast and sharp. Words like negligence, incompetence, irresponsibility filled the air. Rumors spread faster than truth. People who once smiled now looked at Michael with doubt. The shop, once full of hope, filled with tension instead. Michael felt something inside him collapse. Nights grew long, sleep disappeared, thoughts spun endlessly. He looked at his tools, his shop, his son's picture on the wall, and wondered if he had made a mistake accepting Olivia's offer. Maybe he really wasn't made for something this big. Maybe dreaming was dangerous. Ethan sensed his father's sadness, even if he didn't understand it. Olivia tried to protect, to defend, to reassure, but the damage was already deep inside him. That was when the worst part began. Distance. Not physical, emotional. Michael stopped talking as much, stopped smiling, stopped letting Olivia in. Silence replaced conversations, fear replaced hope, pressure replaced peace. Olivia watched helplessly as the man who once stood so strong began to crumble under the invisible weight of expectations, and she was afraid not of losing the shop, but of losing him. One late afternoon, after another difficult conversation and more bad news, Michael stood alone in the center of the shop. The same shop that once felt full of promise now felt heavy, almost suffocating. He looked around at the life he had built, at the walls that carried his story, at the dream that suddenly felt too large for a simple man like him. For the first time, he truly wondered if he should walk away. The thought didn't come with anger, it came with sadness, with exhaustion, with a quiet pain in his chest. Maybe stepping aside was the only way to protect his son. Maybe giving up was safer than watching everything collapse. And in that fragile moment, under the dim shop lights and heavy silence, Michael's heart whispered a dangerous possibility. Maybe it was time to let go. Night slowly settled over the quiet Texas town, while Michael remained alone inside the shop. The world outside was calm, but inside him a storm raged. He sat near the car that had triggered the entire disaster, hands resting weakly, shoulders heavy, eyes lost in uncertainty. For the first time in many years, he did not feel strong. He did not feel capable. He felt like a man standing on the edge of losing everything that mattered. Then the door opened softly. Olivia entered, not as the powerful executive everyone admired, but as a woman who had also known fear, loneliness, and battles no one ever sees. She didn't come to command. She came to stand with him. When she saw Michael's expression, she understood immediately. He didn't hide it anymore. He admitted his fear, his shame, his exhaustion. He admitted how deeply it hurt to think he might fail not as a mechanic, but as a father. He confessed he had even considered giving up. Olivia listened without interruption. Her eyes filled with emotion, but her voice was steady when she finally spoke. She reminded him of the first day they met, the way he refused to be intimidated, the way he placed responsibility above money, the quiet dignity he showed when he could have taken advantage but chose honesty instead. She told him that real greatness has nothing to do with wealth, status, or perfection. Real greatness is courage with humility, and Michael had always shown both. From that moment, they decided to face the problem together, not as investor and mechanic, as human beings who trusted each other. They called specialists, reviewed reports, examined every possibility, and finally, the truth came out. There was no negligence, no irresponsibility. It had been a rare mechanical failure, documented and proven. The accusations were withdrawn. The storm began to calm. Little by little, life returned to the shop. The whispers faded. The suspicious eyes softened. Many people who had doubted quietly returned with respect. But something deeper had changed in Michael. He no longer measured himself by fear. He understood that strength is not never falling. Strength is standing back up, even when your heart feels heavy. Olivia, too, realized that what she found there was far beyond a business project. She had found purpose, humanity, connection, something priceless. Ethan remained the heart of everything. He grew watching a father who didn't quit, who faced pain with honesty, and who loved fiercely even when afraid. Olivia, once surrounded by luxury but isolated inside, discovered warmth in a simple home, at a modest dinner table, in shared laughter after long days. Time passed, and the shop didn't just become successful, it became symbolic. People didn't admire it only for technical excellence, they admired the story behind it. A story of courage, dignity, second chances, and love. A story proving that true wealth isn't found in bank accounts, it's found in character. Today, that small Texas repair shop stands not only as a business, but as a reminder. Sometimes life forces us to stop so we can finally see what really matters. Sometimes the strongest people are not the richest or the loudest, but the ones who keep choosing honesty, kindness, and responsibility even when the world makes it difficult. And now to you who are listening, have you ever faced a moment where everything seemed lost, but choosing courage changed everything? Have you ever met someone simple yet extraordinary who reminded you of what truly matters? Share your thoughts in the comments. If stories like this touch your heart and remind you that goodness still exists, stay with us. More stories are coming. Stories that warm the heart, inspire hope, and remind us that even in the hardest moments, humanity still shines.